I'm going to show you how to build Hellboy as a playable character in Dungeons & Dragons. We need to encapsulate everything that is Hellboy, whether it's that insane fist, or the hand cannon that you carry around, or the just general feel of the character. But that does all start with the lineage, or race, based off of what vocabulary you're up to speed on. And that's probably the easiest choice. We're going to go with the Tiefling. I would go with one of the Tieflings with specialized bloodlines, so that you can have like smites and stuff, but unfortunately D&D Beyond removed a lot of those bloodlines, so we're going to stick with a basic Tiefling. This gives us resistance to fire damage, which is very important, and it does give us Infernal Legacy. So we get the Thaumaturgy cantrip, so we can boom out our voice if we need to. At third level of this overall build, we get Hellish Rebuke, so if somebody hits you with an attack, you can go ahead and hit them back with some fire damage. You can only cast this second level spell once per long rest using this feature, and then at 5th level, you get the spell Darkness. Then when it comes to the background, we're just going to grab Wild Spacer because you do wind up traveling through these like strange astral places in certain scenarios. So we're going to go ahead and grab that background, but mostly because it actually gives us the feat Tough, giving us an extra 2 hit points of health per level of this overall build. The Wild Spacer background also gives us skill proficiencies in athletics and survival. Then when it comes to some starting stats, we're going to have a point spread that looks like this. That is probably one of the most well-rounded characters I've ever built on this channel, because we need plenty of melee type attacking with using swords and stuff, because that does happen in the movies and the comics, but we also need some accuracy with a ranged weapon, so we need a couple points in dexterity. Then before we jump into the class, because we're going to be doing some class stuff that I've never actually done before. If you like D&D related content, make sure to subscribe. I try and put a lot into these videos, and the easiest and most simple way you can help support is by clicking that subscribe button. It actually makes it so you roll more nat 20s than if you weren't subscribed, and it lets the YouTube algorithm know that you like this kind of stuff. But back to the build, when it comes to a starting class, we're going to take a class that I've never done on this channel, mostly because it's technically homebrew, but it is still an official class that is listed on D&D Beyond. It was created thanks to Critical Role, but it is so insanely fitting for Hellboy that I finally dove into it, and that's the Blood Hunter. This class is all about dealing with the occult, dealing with curses and all sorts of crazy things that are just so fitting for the Hellboy universe. It gives us proficiency in light armor, medium armor, and shields, as well as all weapons, except for guns, but we'll get to that later. It also gives us proficiency with alchemist supplies, which seems somewhat fitting, and we can grab skill proficiencies in Arcana, Religion, and History. Becoming a Blood Hunter gives us a few features right away. The first one's called Hunter's Bane. This is a ritual that helps alter your blood at its core, binding you to darkness, but at the same time, protecting you against it. This is where it's starting to get really fitting for Hellboy. This gives us advantage on survival checks to track fae, fiends, and undead, as well as advantage on intelligence checks to recall any information about them. Hunter's Bane also allows you to use some special abilities using your own life force for those abilities, but we get to choose whether we want to use wisdom or intelligence for the modifier for it, so we're going to use intelligence because that's a little bit higher. The other feature we get right at first level is Blood Maledict, and this is diving into that sort of blood magic stuff. You get to learn a blood curse. You only learn one for right now, but you get to learn an additional one at 6th level, 10th level, 14th level, and 18th level. You can use this curse in its basic form, or you can choose to sacrifice some of your own life force by taking some necrotic damage, and this will then amplify the effects of the curse. The amount of necrotic damage you take actually goes up as you level up in this class. It currently just starts at a 1d4 of damage, but you can use that size of dice for other things in the Blood Hunter class. And the curse we're going to grab from this feature is the Curse of Bloated Agony. This allows you to use a bonus action targeting one creature within 30 feet of you. And then until the end of your next turn, that creature has disadvantage on any strength saves and dexterity saves, which is going to really help with anybody else that's a caster in your party that wants to cast some dexterity saving throws against that enemy. Additionally, if that creature tries to make any sort of attack more than once in a turn, they take 1d8 necrotic damage. And this early on, preventing multi-attack can be a bit of a lifesaver. If you amplify this curse, The curse actually lasts for 1 minute instead of just until the end of your next turn, but a creature can still make Constitution saving throws in order to try and get rid of the curse on themselves. Now, that's a lot for 1 level in Blood Hunter, but we're going to go ahead and multiclass right away because we need to grab something else very important. We're going to go ahead and multiclass over to Fighter. This allows us to immediately pick up a fighting style, and we're going to choose unarmed fighting. We have a big fist that we need to make use of, and unarmed fighting allows us to boost up the damage of our unarmed strikes. If we have something in either of our hands, we can wind up doing 1d6 of damage plus your strength modifier. But if you are wielding no other weapons or a shield, you can do 1d8 instead. And if you happen to be grappling a creature, they take 1d4 of damage on top of everything else. The other feature you get at level 1 of Fighter is Second Wind. So as a bonus action, once per short or long rest, you can go ahead and regain some hit points equal to 1d10 plus your fighter level. But I just wanted to make sure we utilize that fist, and now we're going to jump back over to Blood Hunter for our 3rd level overall, but making our 2nd level in Blood Hunter. This gives us another fighting style right away. So we're going to go ahead and choose Archery. This allows us to get a +2 bonus to any accuracy with ranged attacks. And we need that because our dexterity is a little low for ranged attacks, and we have that massive hand cannon, so we want to make sure that we can actually hit things with it. Also at 2nd level of Blood Hunter, we get the feature Crimson Rite. So this allows us to add some damage to any sort of weapon attacks that we're doing. Although most Dungeon Masters will probably allow you to add it to your fist as well in this situation. This allows you to take that Hemocraft die that we were using earlier for hurting ourselves and instead allow it to empower our weapon. We can deal an extra type of elemental damage on top of our usual damage that we're doing. We have to choose what type of damage it is now, but we get additional choices later. So we're going to start with the Rite of Flame to start because this allows us to add fire damage to any of our attacks, and that's fairly fitting for Hellboy. At 7th level of this class, we get 1 more choice, and then at 10th level, we get 1 more on top of that. But instead of jumping back and forth with these, I'm going to go ahead and let you know that I'd probably just grab lightning damage for the 7th level one, which is called Rite of the Storm, and then for the 14th level, I would grab Rite of the Roar, which does thunder damage, which seems to make sense because firing off a hand cannon does let out a loud noise, and thunder damage just kind of makes sense there. Then at 3rd level of Blood Hunter, we get to choose a Blood Hunter Order. This is basically the Blood Hunter's subclass. And considering the things that we're hunting in the Hellboy universe, I feel like the Order of the Ghostslayer is probably the most fitting. This initially gives us the feature Rite of the Dawn. This adds to your Crimson Rite feature. So when you activate your Rite of the Dawn, you get to do radiant damage instead of any of the other types, but it gives you more benefits on top of it. Your weapon sheds a bright light, which it can be good in certain situations, but you already have dark vision, so it's kind of hit or miss there. You have resistance to necrotic damage, which is super helpful for being a blood hunter because activating certain abilities does necrotic damage to you, so that means you have resistance to that damage, which is insanely helpful. So now you can use your curses a little more liberally, and if you happen to be attacking an undead creature while the Rite of the Dawn is active, you get to deal 1 more Hemocraft die worth of damage. Additionally, you get the feature Curse Specialist. This allows you to use your curses 1 more time per short or long rest, when before you only had 1 use per short or long rest. And you can now target creatures that don't even have blood, which was a strange restriction that you were going to have to deal with before, but it did make sense logistically. Then at 4th level of Blood Hunter, we get an ability score improvement. And we're going to go ahead and take a feat right away because we want to get the feat Gunner. This will allow us to round out our dexterity modifier, giving us a +1 there. We get proficiency with firearms, which does have a revolver under that list, and it does some pretty solid damage. So even though we have a slightly lower dexterity score, our accuracy is still pretty decent since we have that archery fighting style, and we do decent damage just because the amount of dice we can roll there is pretty solid. Additionally, the Gunner feat allows us to ignore the loading property of our firearms, and on top of that, we no longer have to worry about being too close to an enemy while using ranged weapons, because now we can still use ranged weapons without being imposed with disadvantage while still being within 5 feet of them. Then at 5th level of Blood Hunter, we get extra attack. So now you can punch extra, or slash extra, or fire away extra, allowing you to attack twice per attack action. And our Hemocraft die upgrades from 1d4 to 1d6. Then at 6th level of Blood Hunter, we get to learn one more curse. So I would take the Blood Curse of the Fallen Puppet. So when you take a creature and reduce it to 0 hit points, they can wind up attacking somebody else on their way down to the ground. And you get to choose who they attack. This is really just getting really lucky when you take somebody out. And if you amplify this curse, you wind up giving them a boost to their accuracy equal to your intelligence modifier and allow them to move up to half of their movement speed. Think of this as you just shooting them really hard. It sends them flying and they hit their target a little more accurately. You also get to use a curse one more time per rest, and you get Brand of Castigation. So if you have your Crimson Rite active, you can channel your Hemocraft magic into an arcane brand. It doesn't require any sort of action, but it makes it so you can't lose track of the enemy that you're fighting, as long as they stay on the same plane of existence. And on top of that, anytime that creature deals damage to you or a creature within 5 feet of you, you wind up being able to deal damage to it equal to your intelligence modifier, which I know isn't a lot, but it's still something. And if they're attacking you, you can always throw in a Hellish Rebuke if you really want to. You can only use this feature once per short or long rest. Then at 7th level of Blood Hunter, you get to choose one more Crimson Rite, which we already covered, and you get another feature from the Order of the Ghostslayer, and this is called Aether Walk. So you can magically step into the veil between planes. You can even move through other objects and creatures as if they kind of weren't there, as long as you don't end your turn inside of something. The only thing they impose is some difficult terrain. If you do end your turn there, you wind up taking 1d10 of damage. But this feature does only last an amount of turns equal to your intelligence modifier, since we're relying mostly on that. Frankly, we're a little spread thin on using our intelligence modifier, but we needed to focus more on our physical stuff anyways, because you're more of a physical attacker as Hellboy, but there is a lot of stuff that would have relied on our wisdom or intelligence modifier, so unfortunately those things just kind of fall short here and there. You can only use this feature once per short or long rest, but if you get all the way to 15th level in this class, you can use it twice. Then at 8th level Blood Hunter, you get another ability score improvement, so let's go ahead and boost up our strength, because that's what we use most of the time, and we still have a decent amount of damage already with our gun, so we want to focus more on our physical melee attacking stuff. Then at 9th level of Blood Hunter, we get Grim Psychometry, or maybe it's Psychometry. I'm not sure where the emphasis lies, but either way, this feature is mostly about discerning what grim relics really mean, or creepy little things from the occult. So if you have to make a history check to recall information about one of these creepy objects, you have advantage on the check. And at the DM's discretion, you can even get like intense visions about it. Then at 10th level of Blood Hunter, you get Dark Augmentation. This boosts your movement speed by 5 feet, and you get a bonus to all of your physical modifiers equal to your intelligence modifier, which again, we're a little lacking on that, but unfortunately we couldn't boost it up too much further while still staying true to the character. Also at this level, we get to learn one more Blood Curse. So we're going to take Blood Curse of the Marked. So until the end of your turn, whenever you deal damage to that creature, you get to deal one more Hemocraft die worth of damage. But you just have to make sure you already have a Crimson Rite active. If you amplify this, you also get advantage on that attack. Then at 11th level of Blood Hunter, your Hemocraft die upgrades from 1d6 to 1d8, and you get another feature from the Order of the Ghostslayer, and it's called Brand of Sundering. This amplifies your Brand of Castigation. So now whenever you hit a creature while they're under the effect of your Brand of Castigation, you wind up dealing one more Hemocraft die worth of damage. And that means if you mix that with your newest curse, you wind up being able to do 3 Hemocraft die worth of damage just thanks to that combo. And on top of that, the Brand of Sundering does make it so any creature that would try to have some sort of incorporeal movement to move through things, they can no longer do that. Then at 12th level of Blood Hunter, we get one more ability score improvement. So we're going to go ahead and max out that strength. At 13th level of Blood Hunter, we get to use that Blood Maledict 3 times per rest, and we get Brand of Tethering. So now your Brand of Castigation will deal 2 times your intelligence modifier. And if that creature tries to get away by dashing or leaving this plane of existence, it takes 4d6 psychic damage, and it must make a wisdom saving throw. And if it fails that wisdom save, it winds up being stuck on this plane of existence. Then at 14th level of Blood Hunter, we get to learn one more curse. So we'll grab the Blood Curse of the Muddled Mind. So if you see somebody concentrating on a spell, like trying to raise some sort of evil creature from some terrible abyss, yeah, they're going to have disadvantage on concentrating on that, so make sure to blast away at them. If you amplify this effect, you wind up being able to make them have disadvantage on all Constitution saving throws, not just concentration. Then at 15th level of Blood Hunter, you get another feature from being a Ghostslayer, called the Blood Curse of the Exorcist. This is an additional blood curse on top of all the other blood curses you have access to, and it doesn't count against the number of blood curses you know. It allows you to target any creature within 30 feet of you, and then as a bonus action, you can remove any charmed, frightened, or possession effects on them. And if you amplify this curse, you wind up dealing some damage to whoever did the charming, frightening, or possession, dealing 3d6 psychic damage, and they wind up having to make a wisdom saving throw or be stunned until the end of your next turn, which is generally pretty powerful for going up against some really crazy creatures and ghosts and stuff like that. Then at 16th level of Blood Hunter, you get another ability score improvement. And I feel like that intelligence modifier has been so lacking, but we can really use some more of it right now. So let's boost up our intelligence by 2 points. Then at 17th level of Blood Hunter, our Hemocraft die increases from a D8 to a D10. We get one more use of our Blood Maledict per rest. And then at 18th level of Blood Hunter, we get to learn one more curse. So we're going to grab the Blood Curse of the Eyeless. This allows you to use your reaction against a creature that's trying to make an attack, reducing a number from their attack roll equal to your Hemocraft die. But this only works on creatures that are not immune to being blinded. You can amplify this by applying it to all of that creature's attacks until the end of their turn. But you have to roll that Hemocraft die every single time they attack and subtract it every single time. Also at 18th level, you get another feature from being part of the Order of the Ghostslayer called Rite Revival. So if you have a Crimson Rite active and you're reduced to 0 hit points but don't die outright, you can then remove your Crimson Rite and be reduced to 1 hit point instead. Then at 19th level of Blood Hunter, you get one more ability score improvement. And I don't want to leave that gun hanging, so we're going to go ahead and put 2 points into Dexterity, boosting up our ranged attacks a little bit. That brings us to 20th level overall. This is the first time I've really taken a deep dive into Blood Hunter, but I think this was definitely the appropriate character to do it with. Let me know what you think about this build in the comments down below, whether there's a different class you would take, or if there's anything I'm missing because Blood Hunter is very new to me. I would love to know about it. If you want access to the character sheet for this build or any of my other builds, feel free to check out my Patreon, linked in the description down below, where you have access to all of my character sheets for all of my builds, and you can help support this channel like so many of these amazing people do. And I have some especially awesome patrons: Rave Lord, Nicole Biliak, Alone, The Holy 999s, Christopher Sam, Stark of Skies, Barrow Skrull, Zach, Felix Ulick, The One 0586, Kevin Shirley, Zephyros, That Funny Man 57, Joshua Maynard, CGC 2014, Panda Milkshake, Ted Z, Andrew Nobles, Karkat Kitsune, Decker Joint, Z13, Viral Naravar, Daniel Galvin, and the Dino 21. Then there's the folks that I play D&D with, my Dungeon Master level patrons: Silas Suchia, 696, T Brownie, Julia B. De Oliveira, Just Wolf, Shane Gilroy, Daniel Saffler, Command ZX, and Salvador. Then there's my God tier level patron who goes above and beyond anything I ever expected, and that's GameStake. So a very special thank you to him. And if you made it all the way to the end of this video, let me know by hitting that like button. And I'll be here hoping you roll at least 3 nat 20s in your next D&D session, especially if you want to be a tiefling that cuts his own horns off regularly and play as Hellboy in Dungeons & Dragons.